Hi there, friends. If you're getting this, it's because you have done one of our strategic planning trainings, and that means that you are in the midst of executing a plan. I just thought I'd check in, touch base. Some of you have recently finished plans. Congratulations. Some of you are in year 2, year 3, maybe year 4 of your plans. But something that's in common of all of you, regardless of where you're at, is some of you are approaching your year end. So if you have fiscal years that end in the end of September and begin then in October, you're approaching your year end. If you have a year end that corresponds with the calendar year, save this, pull it back up as you get a little bit closer. But reminder, as you approach your year end, it's time to do some annual planning, annual looking ahead for the next year and what you need to do with your strategic plan. So for those of you who are maybe a year or 2 or 3 or 4 into your strategic plan, there's been a lot of chaos this year. There's been a lot of uncertainty and a lot of changes this year. So you may want to spend a little extra time slowing down, looking back at your execution timeline and the milestones you have for the next year or 2, and seeing if there needs to be some more significant shifts or changes based on that. Reminder that if you've had a lot of really significant shifts, sometimes it's appropriate to kind of look back a level up within your directional components, which is your vision for change, your focus areas, and those corresponding high-level goals for each focus area. You may need to actually ground truth those goals a little bit, or you may need to cautiously look at your focus areas. Remember though, as we start to look at those goals and those focus areas for potential shifts, if those things need to start shifting, does that mean that your vision for change actually needs to shift? And if that needs to shift, the plan isn't apply anymore. You got to start over, right? But you know how to do it now, so you can. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully you can just kind of maybe slow down and really look at your execution timeline, make some adjustments if needed. Maybe you just need to tweak a focus area or a goal. Maybe something needs to be added or something needs to just be let go. Like maybe there was some stuff that was in there that was at this point has become nice to have, but not necessary and can be dropped. So yeah, for all of you, regardless of where you're at in your plan, you need to schedule some time to do your annual planning. Look at the work that you have for the next year and make a work plan for it, right? So that can look a lot of different ways, but usually what we do is we want to look at the milestones we have for the next year and start to look at more specific actions, steps, or needs that must be met in order to reach those milestones. And then as we start to identify those things, lay them out into an annual calendar. Sometimes it makes sense to have sort of specific things you're targeting each month. Sometimes it's each quarter. Now, for those of you who are getting stuck here is a workaround for you. If you're looking at your milestones for the next year and like, we don't know like what all the steps are for the whole year. Okay, cool. Don't sweat it. I want you to just figure out what your first step is. What's your first step? Maybe after you do your first step, you'll see, okay, well, now I can see my second or my third step. But at minimum, like, what's your first step? When will it be done by? And who's responsible for ensuring it gets done? Remember, you don't necessarily have to have everybody who's going to do the work in the room. It's nice if it works out that way, but you at least need to identify someone, and ideally someone who's part of this conversation, who can make sure it's happening. Be the one who does the follow-up, be the one who makes the assignments, be the one who is managing the timeline and making sure it's happening. So think about those things. Oh, and then another thing you could think about too, it's always a good reminder as you're looking at your annual planning process. It's not just about working out your work plan. It's not just a matter of looking at what actions you have next year. Don't forget to kind of do some sort of a process where you get reconnected to your vision for change. Have some conversations around how that vision for change matters. Why is it meaningful? What's the impact? If you remember the 5 whys, like here's this vision for change. Why does that vision for change matter? Why does it matter? Answer that. Then whatever the answer is, why does that matter? Whatever that answer is, why does that matter? Do some exercise to get connected to it again. Not just do the work of it, but actually feel it and feel the motivation and the power of it. So don't forget to get connected, reconnected to sort of the higher level pieces of the plan, the meaning, the shift that you're trying to create, this vision for change that you're working toward. And then another thing you can think about with your annual planning is that sometimes your execution team might need a refresh. Maybe there's been some changes on your team. Maybe someone's work has shifted or they're burned out and they need to step away. Maybe there's some new people who can bring some new energy in. So don't forget that your execution team can shift if that makes sense for you. And to do a proper onboarding process with new team members into your execution team, they really need to understand the plan in detail. So that means slowing down, going through the vision for change, going through your focus areas. If you remember how we worked as you were creating those things, you'd read them out loud multiple times. You might remember explaining to me or whatever trainer you had, why you chose the words you chose in your vision for change, why you picked the phrases you used when you had your why this explanation for your focus areas. So kind of get into that level of detail when you're onboarding a new team member into your plan. And then also, maybe it's a good idea, especially if you have new team members, just to do some team forming activities, a simple activity to reestablish or reaffirm your working agreements, your expectations of how you're going to work together. If you've done the facilitation version of our training, then you can pop back to around week 4 of the training and pull up the resources on launching a planning team. Within that, there's some guidance and some materials around doing working agreements or setting expectations. If you haven't done the facilitators version of it, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's like, what do we agree about how we're going to work together? What are the things that we need so that, it's like, what do we all need so that we can all do our best work around communication? Expectations for meetings, how we prepare, how we resolve conflict, what we expect from each other so that we can be productive. So just a simple conversation to come up with some working agreements and reaffirm that. Those kinds of things. This is getting a little bit long, but I just wanted to drop you a note. I also wanted to just you got this. I know it's hard out there. It's hard out there. But don't let the uncertainty stop you. The work you're doing matters. The vision for change that you created for a reason. So don't lose sight of it. And I want to also remind you that if you need some help, you can reach out and we can schedule some time. So hope you're doing all right. I hope that your annual planning for this next year goes well. And I hope that you're seeing some progress toward your vision for change. All right, talk soon.